How you doing? Justin here, still sweating a lot in old hot London today. In this little lesson I want to talk a bit about advanced tuning methods. Now the one I'm going to show you is using harmonics, and there's a lot of people around on the internet that say that it's no good and it's scientifically not accurate, but I've always used it and my guitar's always sounded pretty in tune, to me anyway. And just as a little test, I just tuned using harmonics and then tested it with my fancy Peterson strobe tuner, and my strobe tuner told me it was like 99% right. So I do believe in this method, even if some of the science tells you that it's not correct. I mean, I try and always believe my ears first anyway, but just to silence those the scientists out there that want to know about tuning. So first of all, you're not going to be able to do this unless you understand how to do natural harmonics. So if you haven't come across natural harmonics before, you want to go to my website and check out the lesson. I think it's under the basics section of my site, which explains natural harmonics. It probably wouldn't be a bad idea if you checked out how harmonics work as well, just because it's an interesting thing to understand. So what we're talking about now is the use of two different harmonics on two different strings, and hearing whether they're in tune by the way the harmonics kind of, I call it warbling, I'm sure it's got a technical term, I don't know what it is. But basically if I play a harmonic at the 5th fret of the 6th string, and I play a harmonic at the 7th fret of the 5th string, they should sound the same. So if I play them together, they sound the same. Now, I'm just going to knock my E string out of tune a bit, and then when you hear it, you'll hear them kind of wobble a bit. So when you play it now, can you hear it wobbling? Now, what I'm going to do now is just gradually tune it up so it's in pitch. And what you'll hear is that the wobbling goes from being really fast to really slow. So it'll go, and eventually it kind of flatlines. And when it gets to the point where the oscillations, I guess they're probably called, actually thinking about it, when they're the same, that means you're in tune. So there we go, now we got it. Now a little extra tuning tip in the advanced section is you should always tune up to a note, never down. And the reason is that sometimes the strings get caught in the nut a little bit, and nut being the little plastic thing at the top of your guitar neck. So if you tune down, sometimes you notice the strings are kind of wound and they're a bit bumpy, so that the roughness of those strings can kind of stop the string from moving through the nut very well. So, and then what you'll find is that sometimes, I'm sure you've found this before already, you're tuning down a little bit and nothing happens, it sounds the same. And then suddenly it jumps, and it's jumped because it's kind of slid through the nut all of a sudden, you know. So if you want your guitar to be really properly in tune, always tune up to a note. So if it's too high, then rather than just tuning down to it, kind of tune further down and then back up to the note. It's a really good, you know, every guitar tech I've ever met has always, you know, does it that way. It's a really important thing to realise when you're tuning. So this same works if I'd start, they're now in tune. I'm going to tune the 6th string too high now, just to make it so you can hear it clearly. Wobbling, too much wobbling. Yeah, now I've just tuned down to it, so I'm just going to tune back underneath and back up. Now, another little advanced tip for you. When you're doing harmonics like this, especially if you do it with distortion or anything, after you've played the harmonics, use this hand to keep your fingers on the strings that you don't want, because otherwise if you just leave them all open, those other strings start ringing out, which is possible, not necessarily going to happen, but it's possible, so they can kind of interfere with the harmonic a little bit. So try and get your fingers resting or your hand on those unwanted strings. Now, this harmonic thing kind of works most of the way down the guitar, so of course you need your 6th string to be in tune first, so you need to tune it to a piano or whatever. Or if you're not playing with anyone else, you can just tune your guitar using harmonics and you'll tune it to the 6th string. I hate saying 6th. So it's important that maybe one of the strings is in tune if you're going to tune to another musician. Now try and get the 6th string in tune to start off with. Later on you can kind of work your way from inside out if you like, but when you're learning this technique, start with the 6th string, get that in tune, then you tune, so it's 5th fret harmonic on the 6th string and 7th fret harmonic on the 5th string. And you get them in tune. Then, to tune the next string, you'd go 5th fret harmonic on the 5th string and 7th fret harmonic on the D string or the 4th string. You get them in tune. So knock my D string out a bit. You hear it wobbling? Tune it back up and get it in tune. Then you tune the 5th fret D string or 4th string to the 3rd fret of the the 7th fret of the 3rd string. But now if you do the same thing on the next string, they're going to sound really well out of tune, and that's because the guitar is usually tuned in 4ths, but from the G string to the B string it's only a 3rd. You might have noticed in basic tuning when you go like, and when you get to that 3rd string you have to move your finger back. Well, with the harmonics it doesn't quite work. You can't use that same 5th fret to 7th fret technique. But luckily for us there's another one which is actually even better, which is using the 7th fret on the 6th string. Sorry, I just hit completely the wrong string. And the B string. So 7th fret on the 6th string and the open B string. Just no harmonic, just your regular open B, it's the same note. And the reason that that's particularly good is that it gives you your tuning again from the 6th string, because the only kind of bad thing about tuning with the harmonics is if you're a little bit out each time, then the guitar gets gradually more and more out of tune. But at least if your B string is in tune again, then it kind of makes things, tends to sound a little bit clearer. So, or more in tune I should say, not clearer. Now you can use 5th fret on the B string and 7th fret on the thin E string if you want, but it's a very weak harmonic and hard to hear the warble. Much better again this time to use the harmonic at the 5th fret of the 6th string and the open E string. Yeah, 5th fret of the 6th string harmonic and the open E. You still hear the wobble. And after all that, your guitar should be nicely in tune. Bonza. Getting in tune, of course, is really, really important, so it's definitely worth learning to do this properly. Now, don't expect to be great at it straight away. It's a different technique. Like everything on guitar, it takes a bit of practice. Learning to be in tune and to tune your guitar well is a really, really important skill, because no matter how well you can play, if your guitar's really out of tune, it's always going to sound a bit... So, definitely a skill that you should get properly under your fingers, as it were. So, hope that helps. Get your guitars in tune, and I will see you again for another lesson sometime soon. More info on this on the website, of course. Go and check that out. That'll be in the basic section. Subscribe if you don't already, and I'll see you around soon. Take care, dudes. Bye-bye.